So, we got all the droids painted. I don't know if I can get them over here because I have them on tape. Let's see if I can get them over here. There they are. All the different droids that I got. Too small to see, but yeah, but there's a lot of droids and droid parts. I think these two guys here in the back, I'm going to dip. I got some clear resin, and I might take them upside down and dip them in a pool of it, because these are supposed to look like clear tops that are lit. So, but I think these guys are going to be kind of up more frontal, or maybe one I'll have kind of in the back. But we can start putting some of these guys in, and the Jawas and everything. I started putting some barrels down. There's the two big red ones there, two blue ones there, and a triple stack of yellow ones there. Got 3 of the Jawas down. I'm using, since they're going to be in the back, I'm using the filament printing ones, because you're not going to really need to see the detail. It's kind of dark back there. Oh, and by the way, I did do the 2 other lights back here. These are the 246 big ones that were already on, already molded in this mold, in this print. But I made 2 smaller ones back here to shine this area. As you can see now, these line up back here with where we'll have our grid plates. And our steel plate, floor plates that go across here. Because it was just too dark back here. You couldn't even really see the wall. Yeah, so all I did is 3D print some cylinders. I couldn't get the side details. I haven't figured out how to get things to attach when, to a round surface. So I got to do a little more learning in CAD. So yeah, we got the Jawas back here that are not so detailed. Like these guys here look really good. The 3D printed, or the resin ones. You can actually even see their belts that come down over their chests, where these are hard. Here I just painted a single belt strap, like they just have one, just to make them different from these guys that have the double crisscross one. So I'm liking what I got back here, because there's not a lot of going on here, and I also got to take in consideration where things are going to sit. Like this is probably going to be here, and this will probably do something like that. I don't think these are ever going to be permanent. I think these I'm going to be able to take out all these big parts. All this little stuff's going to be fastened down. That way I can always change things out if I want to. Maybe later on I want to build a better X-Wing wing, or I can add. I also have this pile of plating that can sit back here. I might want to take all that out and put this pile of rubbish in there, and I can. This I think I'm going to have sitting outside it, because that's the way it's supposed to look like. These barrels and this part are kind of burying into the sand. Oh, and then I have this. Like this is just going to sit on the conveyor belt. I think we're going to put you there, and what's going to go here? What are we going to put there? Don't I have another part? Or maybe I'll put these scrap piles there. Keep the X-Wing stuff down there. We got to glue the winches in today too. We're going to get these guys right to the edge where the 2 halves come together. That way they don't look like they're so far back. Or do I even glue them inside this? No, that comes right to that edge. So I want it to here. I think the drawing shows them back here. I'm going to just move them up a step, so they're a little closer. So they're a little closer to the door. So what else do we want to do? We know that's, yeah, I just don't see no reason to permanently glue those down. If I take this anywhere, I can pull 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 loose parts out of it and put them in a box separately. But all the figures and the barrels and this stuff and the droids will all be permanently set down. Well, what's next? I got 3 Jawas back there. We know these are going to be here. We got, you know, a pair of 2s, a pair of 3, and another pair of 2s, and then we got these 3 singles. So we want to spread them out. Like maybe put a barrel over here, getting some back here on this grid, some on this grid. These upper areas get skinnier, so there's less floor space, so we might want to put more on the bottom. Because here you only have really these walkways. This walkway really won't have anything, it's just figures. Maybe a droid here. But back here on these plates, I can put stuff. And with this, I'm using a thin CA. Dip a Q-tip that's already been soaking in CA, so it doesn't really soak it up that much anymore. Because it's already a big hard ball. And let's... should have got you in my tweezers first. Let's put you right in the corner there. And if we get a little shiny, oh, I just made a whistle there. If we get a little shiny CA glue around the bottom, that I'll just take a wash. A rusty brown or brown wash probably would be the best. And just dab it there, and that'll get rid of, that'll dull any shininess that might want to spread out. Well, okay, we got them all on. They're all in there. I don't know if you're going to be able to see them all. We got droids and Jawas occupying some spaces. And then we got, this is the first tier. I got like 3 Jawas and some barrels and that droid there. And then this will slide in here. So that'll be that level. And then we got these guys here on this level. It's a little tight, that one. But there we go. So we can actually now glue this side on. And here's the figures there. We got an R2 astromech there. BB-8's hanging out there. We got the hangar droid there. Some barrels. Jawas on that side, so we can actually now finally get this glued on. Got a couple of Jawas here. I tried to do the Jawas with the guns in the view of from outside, like this one's got a gun, that one does, and then the third one I'm going to put up in the cockpit area, and then these are the guys that are going to go up in the cockpit, and then I'm going to keep one droid and or one Jawa and have him hanging like almost out on the edge here on these open panels here. But I'm going to have to tape that to do all that, so I don't want to put him in yet, so I'm going to leave him in there and put him in last once we, because I'm going to have to tape both of these holes, because I want him hanging way out on the outside. But this way I can get some tape and tape the edges here, and then I'll just stick some type of cotton or something in here, paper towel, and to close any overspray getting inside there. But you do see, you know, I do have that Jawa you can see from outside, and then the hangar droid here, you'll see one walking by with a gun, but I think I'm gonna have the other one looking outside. So what do I do first? Because I got to lift this end up and this back, because there's a little gap here. I'm thinking we get it glued to this first, because this is good, and then I'll be able to still get, I believe, and then we got to get a peg in here and a peg in there, but I believe I'll still be able to get it only has to pull a little bit, but I think if I get it down at the bottom, and if I can get the bottom tight, and get this together. Alright, well, let's get some epoxy going. And then we'll use some super glue to tack it. Excuse me. Whoop. That's the hardener, right? Yeah. Well, we're going to need quite a hefty amount here. Because you ride on the side, and then we'll get some in this pocket here. On both the top and the bottom. Grab my, I guess you could call putty's epoxy knife. I mean, the other side's being held on by just super glue, so, because I glued that side before I bought this epoxy. Alright, nothing to it but to do it. I see what's going on here. I forgot to do the top. There we go. Did that make that fit better? Yeah. I think we're good. We're nice, and the key is to have a nice flush part right there too. Are we hitting on that thing maybe? That back wall? It could be. Oh, but once we push that, that'll fix that. But we can't do that yet. We gotta let it sit and cure down here, and then we're gonna have to tape that so it stays. If I can do something like this. I'm trying to do it on the camera and it's difficult. That there, just to kind of hold it, and we're just eventually, once this attaches itself to the bottom plate, I don't know if I can get a thin piece across here to kind of hold that down tight. I don't know if I get it across the bottom plate there, then we can push this up, hopefully. Because there is a little bit of a warpness in that, and that's, this side worked really good, so we're good there. Maybe I should get a little thin piece there, go across the front. Will help too. Just keep it low. Bring it across the front, and go across this one. See if we can get a little more tension here. It's a little weak. It's a little weak. There we go. There we go. Now we have some tension there. So we'll just wait and let that sit. And then we'll try to squish the top part together. You know, and it pretty much closes the gap from about here to here. So then we only have to fill in down there. But like I said, this is going to be the non-hero side. But we'll be back when this cures. I might let it do it overnight. So then we got to flip this thing upside down as well. And I need to take, I think, this set of tracks off. Where did it attach? Yeah, back here. I have to take this set of tracks off, and then we got to hit that seam in there, although it's doing pretty good. But I want to gap that seam once we squish that top up. But we got to take the tracks off anyway, because we got to run wire in between these tracks for the lights that go under here. But I'm rambling. We'll let this sit and cure. Okay, so the side is glued on. I got it glued on, and then I set it up on its side, got some resin in here, tacked a little bit of super glue up here to kind of help hold it, but I used some tape as well. And got some resin in there and then squished it in after it dried, cured on the bottom half really good. That way it would pull the bottom up. So it looks like everything worked pretty good. And then went back in and just took some resin and just kept filling the gap that's down here. But up top, we're looking like we closed in pretty good. I'll just run some tulip in there where there's a gap, and that'll close it up, because the resin filled in most of it. And then I took the tracks off on the bottom and did the bottom as well, now that it's in the place, and filled in that bottom. Which looks like the main cause of all this is this bottom, which this is all one tub, and then there's a bottom plate here. If I can tip it. This is one piece, this whole back, and that acts as a bottom. And then this was just a plate, and then you have your sidewalls. There was a little bit of a roundness because this printed like that, and probably when the printer was coming over and then going this way, it pulls this edge up a little bit. So that's what happened there. But we got some epoxy all in here, so it's all good and secure. Plus there's a peg from this piece is pegged twice here and then once in here, so that's going to keep it from pulling apart. And we're going to have to remove the front ones anyway, because we got to get wires down for the headlights, and then we're going to sneak a wire this way. I'll just probably make a little trench, and I can bury the wires and just putty it. Most of it's not going to be seen anyway. And then I'm going to make a groove in this, and then let me set this down, make a groove. This goes like this. The other side's going to have the opening, because that's going to be the hero side. And I got two droid tubes, but let's just say this is this side. I'll just have the wiring come under. You'll only be able, it's only going to travel this far, and we'll notch it, and then we'll notch it out. That way I can put a light fixture here. And I'm just going to do a single. I think the original might have like 2 or 3. Believe it has 2 on each side, 1 on each side, which I can still do. I just think the amount of light that's going to come from the LED, if I put 2, it's going to be just overly bright. And even though it might not be Canon, as far as the way it lights the area, I think would be better. And I think if I just put 1 LED here, I think 2 would look cooler, but in this space, 1 will work fine. And it'll give that nice cone light, that everything's even, and that the tracks aren't getting overly bright. I just want this area here on the ground to get lit up. And then we'll have the ladder coming down too. So I think that'll work fine like that. But we'll just notch little trenches to hide the wires, and then putty over the areas that it's going to be seen, because this is going to cover most of it. It's just going to come over, whoop, and then I have a I made a round light fixture housing. So it looks like there's a fixture there. Before I glue this on, I'm going to have to get these headlights in, which is just putting the bulbs in and then connecting them. I think I'm going to do them in 2 series circuits. Because coming down the vehicle, well, I'm going to have to send, what, 2? But all the guys are in, by the way. Everybody's glued in. All the Jawas. We just have the ones I'm saving for up top. I got Chopper who's going up top, DB1, and the mouse droid will go up in the cockpit. But we'll have 3 Jawas up here. I might even print more. Now that I'm seeing how big this ship is and how small they are, I could print so much more because there's a lot of them in these ships. And I definitely could populate it with more. But there's a lot of this ship you're not seeing where they can be. Especially all up in here. But sometimes less is more, and don't overdo it. This way you can see what's going on. But then I hooked up the power to make sure what I colored, make sure I colored all the fiber optics back in there. That they're glowing right before we close up permanently. And I can't get my hands in there. So yeah, that's where we're at. We're gonna, I think, well, there's a couple things I should do before putting this on. I gotta clean this edge up. This edge is good. I think I already cleaned this one up. But we are gonna have to do a wash in here. It'll be easier to do this wash where we can do it like this instead of trying to do it this way. But yeah, headlights first and then do a wash, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter. But we definitely got to get all those things and then make sure how it fits here. The wires going down for the headlights, and then the wires going down for the exterior lights are going to go down this tube here. And it already has a pre-made hole to come out right here. So I don't even have to drill a hole. So he obviously thought ahead of making wire channels. Because this is a great area to have a battery and all that, and that's what we're going to do. Yeah, I think we're going to do two series. So we'll bring a power down, a plus down, and then I can feed this. And maybe, I'm wondering if I just bring another separate. But then that's bringing 4 wires down, because I'll need a positive for this headlight, a positive for that headlight. Or maybe I'll just, because I was also thinking, do I want to be able to switch between both on and just one set on? Because you could do that. But I'm going to leave both bulbs. Kind of like a high beam, you know, like a fog light comes on. The 2 inner ones I can make like fog lights. But we're going to leave all of them on at one time. But how do I want to run this with the least amount of wires? Would be to jump her over. And then we got to cross under here. Which is not a huge problem, but because otherwise I would need to bring a power and a negative, and a power and a negative to each side, and then they can get tied up here, because I am going to have the lights on a switch. So we could do that. And then also what needs to come down here is a positive and negative, which I can just run one side, a positive, one side, a negative, bring them over, and then shoot them back. And then under here is where I can tie, because I got plenty of meat here to make a good chunk to tie the 2 lights. If I have one light over here and one light over here, we can tie them right here and have, you know, power coming, which would be going this way, but this sits this way, power coming in, and then tying off to each light right here. So, but I am rambling on all the things we're going to do. But like I said, I think next is getting this prepped to go on here. And seeing if I do have to light block back here once we put this down. I might just put a piece of styrene and glue it to the back of this and make it like a little bit high so there's just an overlap so it'll stick up above. Because really it's the light there that's trying to shine through. And this is a bigger tube so I can run quite a few wires up through it, but the less that I have coming out and running over, the better. So that might be the way to go. But then they'll be parallel each one. Each one's a separate series coming off one power source, and then I can do that way. That way here all I have to do is bring the plus in, hit this plus, out of that negative into this plus, just jumpered right over with the prongs of the LED, and then this negative come back up. And I think that's how we'll do it. So if one headlight goes out, it's one headlight that goes out. But we'll see. Let me get some light bulbs in there and see how tricky and how much space I have here. If I got all this opening here, we'll be fine. And I can't see up it, maybe even make a little box around it. It'll be hidden by this lip. But we'll be back. Well, okay, we got the lights in down here. And I begun soldering these together. I'm going to run these guys in 2 series. Basically because I'm not going to be too worried because it's easy to get to these. The bottom lip of the vehicle only comes right down here so I can see them from underneath. So if I ever need to pop them out, I can do a little maintenance on them. So I'm not worried about running them in series for this. For right there. That'll save me on resistor. It'll save me on, you know, having a weird bundle of wires or something else going on here. Having to Y off from one to the other and stuff like that. So I can just bring one hot down on each side, then one negative right back up. Or maybe I'll even be able to loop the negatives over. So that we're going to do. And then the other thing I'm going to try to start getting to as well is the light underneath here. Figured since I'm running wiring down this entry here, and that comes out right there. And like I said, the lip of the ship, or the vehicle, comes in right about there. Yeah, because there's the pin lined up. So that gives me plenty of room to do stuff back here. That's great. They even put a notch in the print where the 2 bulbs would be, just in case, just to give you a little extra room. And then the wires for the lights here, I'll bring down, hidden behind this edge. I'm just going to sneak it up along behind this track. And then, you know, one on each side. I'll bring the negative down one and positive down the other. Bring them over here and just shoot them over to underneath this piece here. And then here I'll notch, you know, from one side. And then make a bigger opening here where I can connect. Because this is probably going to be magnet wire here. And then from these 2 ways it'll be the wire from the SMD LED. So we only have to make a real fine trench here. But on this one side here, we'll make a big enough trench and a tie-in. I think we can cut a good notch out of there for a resistor. So when this sits down, but we're going to have to get the center point here. And then that'll give me the center line here. And then we'll just keep it off the one edge, which is the hero edge. It's hard when it's upside down. I think it's this side. Yeah, so it's flipped up. So yeah, this is going to face that way. So we got to figure out that, and then we got to figure out this. And this is going to be over here somewhere. And the other one we'll do on this side. And I got to see where this is placed. If it's kind of front of this other door, Or is it more off to the side? But we also get a track on here. And if we can get a track on here, then that gives us where the tracks come up to as well. I think it's going to be more kind of like a little bit offset. Like that. I think that's how they are. Okay. I traced out I got our center point, and then I traced out this so I can kind of see exactly where this lies. And then glued down my two SMDs, measured from the edge here to this edge, and then centered them in between there where this will sit. And then I dug a little notch here for the wires to, hopefully, I might have to go a little wider just to make sure. And then dug a trench here. It's kind of weird being 3D printed. So I got the side to sides for these wires to go through. Like I said, I might have to make a little wider trench. That way I have some wiggle room. But it's sitting pretty good. Because I did pull this and take some thin CA and glue these down. I'm not too worried about like hiding them. They're so thin, gonna be underneath, and once you paint them, it'll look like, you know, normal wires going to a light. And then once we get these down, which I started light blocking, which I should remember to print these in these light fixtures, things like this, in a black already, and I won't have to do that. So what we're at to now maybe is to get these the magnet wire up. We'll start this way and bend it around, and then we can just send it right up and tack it, get it right up against here, and then I can hide it in that. Well, it'll be hidden mostly by the track, but I can even hide it even further with some tulip that I want to put around these edges anyway. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to continue. I'm just going to start bending this wiring around. We'll just start doing this. We'll get everything over here. We'll start getting our distance, and we'll leave extra. Extra is good. And then all we'll have to do is make that a nice straight line and bend it around like that. Heck, it might even fit right, tucked right in there. And since we're going to do one on each side, it's not a big deal. And then we got to remember to mark so we know what ground is going to what lights, because we have also the headlights that are going to come down that tube. Well, there they are. I kind of kept on trucking, but basically all I did is run the wires up through here, out the hole, up alongside here. On both sides, the positive and the negative, and then I, you know, trenched out a trench and hauled out a big spot in here, and then made a little trench and a little trench for the wires to sneak underneath this. This is all glued down. This is all glued down. The droid tubes, and it's looking good. That's basically what I wanted. I even did some tulip around the edges of all this, because this one too, when it printed, had a little lift on this corner. But all in all, it set down pretty good. You can see that, but each door here, there's this little section here, so I'm gonna try to use. There's three little squares here, kind of looks kind of control-y looking. They look like dials you can turn. I'll just set them right here, because when it's upside down, that'll be more the top of the door. And printed out 4 for each strip. Hopefully I sized them to where they'll fit. And that just gives something going on in here. And then maybe some of this other stuff I can kind of sit inside the door to kind of add a little something to the inside of the door. I'll probably take this one panel right here and put that inside the door. I don't know if inside here, I was thinking where these ladders are, because I know on the original there's some stuff along the walls here, but there's very little room. I might be able to. if I do a print like that where it's real small and thin, I don't know if there's anything off these I can use. Oh yeah. If that gives me that depth, which it might, I'll have to see. I don't know how deep that is. Use this depth gauge. So it's about 6¼ millimeters. Oh, I could use some of that detail and put a little bit here. Probably put on the side where I have a little bit of roughness from the supports. But I could put something on those. So yeah, that print will be able to use a lot of those pieces up. But I'm very excited to get this part done. I was hoping, it's getting late, I was hoping to, I mean, it's not really going to take much, just running a wire and soldering a resistor on it, and then just soldering them to two of these. But I'm not ready to put this on yet. I need to get in here, and I think it's going to be easier to do the wash with it off. You know, at least back here. And then I can open this up and do the other side and make sure I get the edges of the ramp. Got to get some tulip in there yet still too, so we'll worry about that tomorrow. But for now, this is up. I might put it together just to look at it and get it all lit up. Well, I let it sit overnight. The lights are working down there. I had a little mishap when I was putting the tracks on. I actually centered that lower compartment between the axle parts, but when I put the back track on, they sit a little forward, so they were going to hit, so I had to actually unpry everything and move it a little bit forward, but wasn't a real big deal. That's why I wanted to make sure I just only super glued that bottom piece on in case I needed to take it off. I had to give it a knock with a rubber mallet to get it to pop, and it didn't completely cure either. But everything's moved forward. The tubes, the droid tubes are in, and the lighting's in. We'll just go back and hit it with some more black to light block anything and make it look nice and sealed up. Ran tulip around it. Well, I'll show you. There we go. Yeah, there they are. Yeah, this was way too, it was only a little bit, but it was just into those tracks when I centered it between these 2 points. So it's actually shifted towards the front just a hair. Almost centered with this hatch now that I look at it on the sides. But it didn't, you know, as far as grinding anything, I didn't really have to do anything with this, just move it. And then to pop these off and just move them. But everything's back together now and all secured, and we got track clearance. And everything, like as far as the super glue, was easy to scrape up. And then I did hit tulip around this piece here. And where's the wiring going up here, so I hit it on there. But you can barely even see the wiring coming here now because it's only like a little spot, so you barely ever see that. And then these are pretty much hidden from your perspective if you do try to look down. And those wires from the SMDs are such a small footprint that even once they're painted, they'll hide. But yeah, there we go. We're getting there. Oh, I should have slid this hook off. I got to figure out what I want to do with this as far as making it look like a chain going around it. Right now I just have it hanging with a little magnet wire, just to come up with a height, how far I want it to hang down. And like I said, it's easy to get to here. I'm always going to have these tracks be able to come off if need to be, and I would be able to just pop them right through if one goes bad or I have to replace any, so that's nice. Well, I went and did a little bit of paint detail on these upper plates. These will sit like this on the top, just to give some more scale and some more detail instead of it just being all just this rusty red. Just to give some of these, I like doing that, giving some parts some metallic, especially in the mechanics, you know, here and there. And then I'll probably mist it lightly with the hull color to kind of bring the contrast down. And then once it gets hit with washes, it's going to get hit with multiple other reds and tans and browns and washes. It'll all blend in and it won't look all like brand new, like this is a brand new copper coil. But at least you'll see a hint of metallic, so you know that was a metallic device that was weathered down, instead of it just being all red.